All right, let's get to my buddy Kevin Clark at The Ringer, NFL writer for years, Slow News Day videocast. What a crazy week. It's maybe the most underrated week on the sports calendar.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's supposed to be a deadline. There's supposed to be a starting point. Nobody listens to any of it. So what do you make this morning of the Baker Mayfield Cleveland situation, Kevin?
I've never seen anything like it because you have a quarterback who said goodbye, even though he said it wasn't goodbye, it was goodbye, to a team that didn't have a quarterback lined up, hadn't said goodbye to him. There was no plan. Maybe he was trying to get control of the situation. But this is one of the most awkward things I've ever seen in sports. No quarterback has ever played out their fifth-year option. It's never happened. It maybe happen with a couple guys in the next couple of years. But I just think that this is unprecedented. Now, what do you do if you're Cleveland? Do you overpay for Jimmy Garoppolo just to end this? Do you try to move Baker Mayfield without a plan in place? Do you try to go with Case Keenum, who, by the way, couldn't have been worse than what Baker Mayfield was last year? I've never seen anything like this, and I doubt the Browns have either.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Colts and the Browns are both talking to Jimmy Garoppolo's agent. And now, Deshaun Watson's interesting because I think his heart is in Atlanta. Economically, it's a really viable city. It's the Hollywood of the South. It's great for marketing. I also think he's from there. But the Saints, I see all the teams now in the running. Saints have the best roster, a great owner, stability. Is he going to go to this? What do you make of this kind of situation?
Okay, so when I saw the last four, the actual best football situation is Cleveland. And I would like to say with all the past couple of weeks, with the last 20 years of Browns football, the fact that all of this, the Baker stuff, the Watson, this might be the biggest mess the Cleveland Browns quarterback position has ever been in. That's saying something, okay? But when I looked at that list, I said Cleveland makes the most sense from a football standpoint. I understand why he wants to be home, but I also want to say there's some real embarrassment potential for any team that takes the plunge here. There's going to be a lengthy suspension.
Yeah.
There's still 22 civil cases with outstanding. And I think that I was surprised, frankly, Colin, at how quickly this all moved, where as soon as there was no indictment last Friday, it was on Saturday, it was okay, he's making a decision, he's taking meetings, all of that stuff. I think that the fact that the last two teams are the Saints and the Falcons, two teams that have newish head coaches, that have quarterback desperation, at least long term, the Falcons are happy to go with Matt Ryan this year, shows that there's some desperation and that maybe the market for him is not what we thought it was going to be. So I thought it was interesting. I would not take Deshaun Watson on my team right now, but I understand, unfortunately, that's the premium for quarterbacks is they get to write their own ticket, even when they have these issues. And so it's been a very strange week in that regard. I'd say from a football standpoint, I agree with you, New Orleans, but we don't know. Sean Payton's not there anymore. It's a better situation than Atlanta, but I can understand why he want to be home.
Yeah, Russell Gage and Calvin Ridley, no longer Falcons, does not make the Atlanta position nearly as attractive because those are really good players. I said Denver's had, I think they'll be the most improved team. I think Pittsburgh has had an unflashy but really smart offseason. What offseason jumps out to you?
Well, I mean, Denver has a case to be made, but it's Tampa Bay. I mean, I'm not even talking about Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the Pied Piper, and that he comes back, and then Russell Gage will sign that deal. Chris Godwin is ready to do a long-term deal. I mean, none of this stuff was happening without Brady. I mean, that's the best competitive advantage in football. We just saw this with Buffalo. I understand that Von Miller got a lot of money, but guys want to hitch their wagon to quarterbacks. And right now you have the best to ever do it coming back, refocused, was retired for 2 months. Again, I guess he got some new perspective or whatever. And guys want to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if Rob Gronkowski, who loves playing with Tom Brady, comes back and takes a deal that is under market. Like, that's what you get. That is why Tom Brady is so valuable, is the guys in New England wanted to play with him for decades. They will take 1 year stopgap thing. So it's the Bucks. Denver, for me, their improvement is nice and fine, but the AFC West is the SEC West now, where it is so unbelievably hard to get through that barrier to entry that I'm not even sure it matters if Denver's improving. I mean, the entire AFC right now, just going more broadly, is the SEC. Yeah. It is the European Champions League. There's so much depth there that even being good doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to be incredible. You have to do 4 or 5 high octane moves per offseason and then get lucky with injuries and quarterbacks. That's it. So I'm not ready to jump on the Denver bandwagon. I thought it was ridiculous when they were, I think, 5th favorite to win the Super Bowl after the Russell Wilson trade. I just think there's too much depth in the AFC to say any of this stuff, and we kind of forget about your Buffaloes and those sort of teams that are already better and have the quarterback.
So this show has been highly critical of kind of the Seahawks in general. Bad drafts, Jurassic offense, and I have a close enough relationship with Russell and his agent as they didn't like Seattle window shopping for Josh Allen at his pro day. The offensive line deteriorated. The offense feels, especially in a division with Kyle Shanahan, Kingsbury, and McVay, it feels outdated. And I think Russell he wanted an offensive coach, better weapons. All that said, what did you make of Russell said it's mutual. 3 different people for the Seahawks said it's not. What did you make of that sort of public commentary yesterday?
That was strange.
Yeah.
That was strange.
Yeah.
I don't love – he had to leave Seattle. But knowing when to leave and knowing where to go are 2 very separate things. And, again, I'm not sure Denver, from a football standpoint, made the most sense. From a lifestyle standpoint, there's a reason Peyton Manning wanted to go there. There's a reason John Elway loved being there for 2 decades. Denver's a nice place to be. I understand that. The public back and forth has been strange. And I was surprised by Jody Allen, the owner's statement yesterday that he wanted out and all that stuff. Part of me thinks, listen, if the Seahawks thought that Russell Wilson was still a top 3, top 5 quarterback, he'd still be in Seattle.
Yeah.
It's really hard for a franchise quarterback to force his way out. Seattle must have wanted this to the point that, yes, it's mutual. If you trade a franchise player in the NFL, it is mutual. The entire game is stacked towards players staying with their team, the franchise tag, long-term contracts that get signed years in advance before anybody hits free agency, unless you're Kirk Cousins. I mean, this is – teams get to keep their guys in the NFL, and so it's always mutual. So the idea that Russell said, "Hey, I went out," and then they agreed to that doesn't really happen with franchise players in the NFL. So I think by definition, the way the NFL works, this was mutual.
By the way, let's circle back. We got a minute and a half left. If you were Cleveland, what would you do at quarterback this morning?
I would overpay for Jimmy Garoppolo to end this saga.
Yeah,
because you can't go in for an entire season. And with a guy in Baker Mayfield where it has the capability to be a toxic situation. Chris Mortensen had to report they want an adult at quarterback. You can't get Chris Mortensen to unreport that. That's out there. You can't call Mort and say, "Mort, buddy, can you?" Nope. They said it. They meant it. And now what do you do? I think it's going to be, Kevin Stefanski's an amazing coach. The fact that he won a playoff game last year and it seemed normal, it didn't seem miraculous, is one of the greatest things I've seen in the last couple of years. And the way that Cleveland embraced that team in a weird year. Baker has had success. Andrew Berry, he said this to me one time. He said he came up through Bill Polian. All that matters is the quarterback position. That's all that matters. And so he's going to be thinking all the time. There's always going to be window shopping. So I think you go with the stopgap, someone like a Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think you try to take a big swing next year. I know Cleveland is not Denver. I know it's not Miami. I know it's not Tampa. But what better way to establish a legacy and a legendary status than actually being the quarterback to make it work in Cleveland? I think at some point a good quarterback thinks that way.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.